very much, Ms. Evelyn Serrano, for your extravagant introduction. In the last part, Evelyn made me sound like different kinds of animals, and thereby implies that I could probably be called a zookeeper. Previously, Dean Raul Pangalangan told you that he was one of my students in political law, and he also told me when I arrived that this is final exam time in UP College of Law. That is why there is a funereal silence in the college. People are either studying or going way over to Manila near Malacanang to pray to St. Jude, the patron saint of the hopeless. I give Raul, for his complimentary language in my favor this morning, a grade 1.0. And I promise to talk to President Aquino about your potential membership in the Supreme Court. After all, there are so many other justices seated there who belong to the wrong law school. You know that I'm always very fond of genies in bottles. So although I was abroad, I made haste to come back home when I heard of the floods in Kalumpit, Bulacan. Sure enough, when I walked along the banks of the river, I saw a bottle and inside was a genie. When I opened the bottle, the genie said, "Don't make 3 wishes, just make 1. I'm undernourished. And I'm suffering because of the Eurozone crisis in Europe and the possible double-dip recession in the United States. So just one request. Of course, as a student of international affairs, I said immediately, give me peace in the Middle East, particularly now that Muammar Gaddafi is said to have been killed. That shouldn't be very difficult." And he said, "But this crisis has been going on for centuries. I do not have the energy reserves to solve that kind of crisis." So I said, well, if you cannot give me peace in the Middle East, make the Philippine Senate stop its so-called inquiries in aid of legislation. Because number 1, no such inquiry, no matter how scandalous, and no matter how lengthy its TV coverage, has ever resulted in any substantial legislation. So it does not serve its constitutional purpose. Number 2, when these senators conduct their investigations, they are brazen about their ignorance of the rules of court. That should be a crime in itself. To display your ignorance so unabashedly and with full confidence just because you are wearing a Western suit speaks of the mentality that sometimes, I'm afraid, dominates the Philippine Senate. Number 3, these senators are serving not as senators of the Republic when they're conducting these so-called public hearings on television. They're serving as subordinates of fiscals. Because when they end their investigations, all that they can possibly do is make a recommendation to the office of the Ombudsman. And the Ombudsman simply assigns it to one of her prosecutors or people we used to call fiscals. So, in effect, therefore, the proceedings of any Senate investigation has no weight in our judicial system. It's zero capability for judging what justice should be administered. We are acting, in effect, when we conduct these scandalous hearings, a fiesta of legal ignorance. We are conducting, in effect, preliminary work for the preliminary investigation of an ordinary fiscal. That's what we're doing. But you cannot stop these senators because, as I've said on another occasion, the process of legislation is not telegenic. You don't want to see us studying our papers, delivering academic or theoretical or well-researched analysis on the present conditions that beset our country. Dean Pangalangan mentioned that he was present when I delivered my sponsorship speech on the International Criminal Court, particularly the Rome Statute. And when I tried to defend it during the debates, that is to say, during the period of interpellation from my colleagues, he described my demeanor at that time as firm and gracious. That is not true. I was not firm, I was angry. That I was being subjected to the humiliation of interpellation by idiots. And I was not gracious, I was homicidal. I wanted to kill them with my bare hands. How dare you impugn the wisdom of decades of the brightest minds in the whole judicial system of the entire planet after reading only 10 minutes in your offices. Well, I will never stop these comments, but I will tell you that when the genie heard I wanted the Senate to stop these legislative investigations, he said immediately, stop the televised public hearings of the committees in the Senate and even in the House of Representatives? I'd rather bring peace to the Middle East. Yan ang kaya ko. Hindi ko na talaga kaya yung Senado, kaya pupunta na lang sana ako sa The Hague, where I will probably be expelled. My speech is Advancing Philippine Contributions to International Criminal Justice. The Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court. The Philippines made a signal contribution to the globalization of international justice when it ratified the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court, which will come into force on 1 November 2011. The Philippines was the 117th state party, and today the Rome Statute has 118 state parties. Our membership in the International Criminal Court is nothing less than a signal contribution because the court is arguably the most important institutional and innovation since the founding of the United Nations. The court is a creature of the human rights agenda, which, unknown to many, has been scrupulously followed since 1935 by the Philippine Constitution. As a benchmark in the progressive development of international human rights, the court represents a triumph of international criminal justice by establishing individual criminal liability for those responsible for serious violations of the Rome Statute. The salient features of the Rome Statute are as follows. Bullet, principle of complementarity, spelled P-L-E, not P-L-I, complementarity. The court will act only as a court of last resort. It acts only in exceptional cases where a court has failed to bring justice because that court is unwilling or unable to investigate and prosecute those who have the highest responsibility for the most serious crimes of concern to the international community. Kaya nakikita mo na dito na kung merong ginawang kasalanan dito sa nakalista na mga jurisdiction ng ICC, ang magbibista niyan ay ang korte doon sa bayan na yon, hindi ang International Criminal Court in The Hague. International Criminal Court, as I said, is a court of last resort. Pag hindi mo mabigyan ng katarungan ang akusado, ayaw mo o kaya hindi mo kaya, ay saka pa lang yan pupunta sa ICC. Kaya maling-mali yung mga pinagtatanong sa akin sa Senado. Kasi hindi sila marunong magbasa. Akala ko that literacy is not even a requirement of the Philippine Constitution because we all presume with free elementary and high school education in our Constitution that everybody is literate. That's why we don't even demand that a voter must be literate. Eh, basahin mo lang, nakalagay naman maliwanag doon nang magbibista ay ang bansa kung saan nangyari yung mga krimen na sinasabi. Hindi naman iyan dadalhin kaagad sa The Hague. Kaya bakit tatanungin ako? Aren't you concerned that ordinary Filipino soldiers and policemen will be brought to trial in The Hague in the International Criminal Court? And I had to answer that question seriously. Ang gusto ko talagang sagutin ay, how about I just mash your teeth in?